Most car lifts are an afterthought. Atlas Elite Lifts designs architecturally refined car lift systems for luxury homes, high-end condominiums, premium dealerships, and commercial spaces. No bulky industrial equipment, no compromise on design, just seamless integration and precision engineering that is so beautiful, it's Batcave ready. You truly have to see an Atlas to believe it. Visit www.atlaselitelifts.com today.
Us contractors are not, the good contractors at least, are not out there to take advantage of anybody. We want to do good work and we want to get paid and we want to leave. And we want to go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So I think if as a whole, everybody can approach these projects, regardless of the size, scale, scope, with the right mindset, I think we can accomplish a lot as a country. And, sovereignty is a big word these days, and really benefit ourselves, our communities, and hopefully we all live with a little bit more peace of mind, knowing that we've got a lot of good infrastructure and quality of life around us.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 344 of the Business Development Podcast. And today it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Chris Vasiliou. Chris is the president of CTK, a rapidly scaling national construction firm specializing in electrical, low voltage, and security contracting with full design build capabilities. A graduate of Humber College's civil engineering program, Chris started out in the trenches as a field technician and rose quickly through project management before founding CTK at just 24 years old. In under 4 years, he has built a fast-growing company delivering complex ICI projects across Canada while keeping everything from cabling to security systems in-house. Now, at 27, Chris isn't slowing down. With a bold plan to scale CTK significantly over the next 5 years through a mix of organic growth and strategic acquisitions, he is engineering more than buildings. He is building a legacy. From navigating major business challenges to mastering LinkedIn outreach and leading with grit and clarity, Chris is proving what's possible when preparation meets pressure. If you've ever questioned whether you're ready to take the leap, this conversation is going to be your green light. Chris, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show.
And thanks for having me, Kelly. Glad to be here. That was an impressive introduction. I don't know.
Might have been better the second time around. It's always practice. This is actually our second interview. So I've kind of got like a preparatory interview on this. The first one didn't quite go to plan. So here we are. It's round 2 fight, right? Sure. Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. What has happened since we last spoke as well as we continue on our journey here. So no, glad to do this for round 2.
It's funny, Chris. Believe me, I've had plenty of these. Okay. And I've had quite a few that were completely on me where like I blew out and destroyed the audio. I remember I was interviewing Liz Ryan once. And if you don't know who Liz Ryan is, she is a LinkedIn powerhouse. She's from like the HR world of things.
Okay.
And she has over 3 million LinkedIn followers. And our very first interview together, she's like, "Kelly, I can't quite hear you. Can you fix your mic?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And I didn't know a lot about audio at the time. And so, Chris, I literally cranked my mic settings and I destroyed my audio.
Oh, geez.
And I had to call Liz back and be like, I am so sorry, but I completely destroyed our interview. You sounded amazing. I sounded like I was 100 feet underwater.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. And oh man, she's just the most gracious woman. She absolutely was like, no problem. We'll come back and we'll do it again. And she did. And so shout out to Liz Ryan. Thank you for being amazing. Point is, podcasts come with all sorts of hiccups and challenges, just like life, just like business, just like anything else. So once again, it's a pleasure to have you back. And I can't wait to chat about your journey for round two.
Yeah.
And what's super cool is I already know a lot about your journey. I know a lot about who you are. And so it'll really help this interview. And so for our listeners, who is Chris Vasiliou? Who is Chris? How did you end up on this path?
I think the best way to begin to introduce myself is I'm an entrepreneur at heart. It's sort of all we really know. And yeah, it comes with a lot of risk and reward, but yeah, it's that's kind of who I am. Someone that just understands discipline and consistency. You know, we've developed that over time and have developed a mentality and a mindset of never give up and just keep on going until your dreams become your reality.
You're a pretty young guy. Like you're not that young anymore, but you're pretty young to be running a pretty high scale construction firm, which is pretty amazing. Did you always think you would be on this like entrepreneurial path? Like take me back to being a kid. How did you end up on this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, no gray hairs yet. I can see in the camera.
Oh man, just you wait.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, to answer your question, deep down inside, when I was a kid growing up, I always wanted my own business. I never really knew, as a kid, as a teenager, how that would really look and how that would all kind of manifest and come to fruition. But I think I've always kind of had that sort of desire inside to do as much as we possibly can, take things to a higher level. I never knew how much work was going to be involved in doing that, but it's part of the journey.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that. When I launched my company, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew what I was doing for this service I provided, but I had no idea what I was doing with regards to like running a company and planning for the future. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to learn. It's I don't think business school can even really teach you for it. There's something about entrepreneurship that you really just have to get your hands dirty. You just got to jump in both feet and say, I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to find out. And you will be amazing that if that's your mindset, how fast you will be able to excel at it.
You cannot teach entrepreneurship. You have to really experience it to get the full effect, right? Whether it's operational issues and employee issues or just things you have to deal with, procurement, etc. So many different layers. And, I've spoken to a lot of people. I like to network a lot as well, gain perspective from people of all different walks of life, which helps you sort of put together a bigger picture. But without the hands-on experience, hard to really understand or explain it.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into this because I know you came from an entrepreneurial family. I really didn't. And so much of my entrepreneurial journey kind of felt like I need to surround myself by people who I don't typically hang out with or haven't really been exposed to, right? Like it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur that I really understood the power of surrounding yourself by other entrepreneurs. And it doesn't really matter kind of in what they're doing. It's that mindset, that mentality, the people who have been there, done that, can share that knowledge with you. I think the other thing that was quite surprising to me when I became an entrepreneur, and specifically when I launched this show, was how willing people are to help you. I think in my mind, I thought like, oh, it's competitive, it's business. Everyone's going to keep their cards tight to their chest, right? It's the exact opposite. The most successful people are almost always the people who are willing to drop everything and give you a hand.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Well, I think there's a collective understanding with business executives, entrepreneurs, people of that sort of caliber, if you will. What goes around comes around. So if you can put a little bit of good into the world, chances are it'll come back to you in some form, one way or another. I can say I've experienced that firsthand myself. And when you've got a culture that's like that, it offers a little bit of peace as well, that people do understand your pain to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Take us back to your dad. Your father was an entrepreneur, or maybe still is.
Yeah. Once was many moons ago. So he started a small scale structured cabling or network cabling company back in '99. He did that to about 2017. Yeah, him and a few guys got paid the bills. Very grateful for having him around. Unfortunately, 2014 he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
things had to kind of slow down with that. But yeah, he's still alive and well. If anybody's
Okay.
wondering, I'll knock on wood as I say that. He's actually still with us today, doing work with us, and he wants to stay active and keep moving. And good on him for wanting to do that. As long as he wants to work, we'll happily have him on board here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How much would you say that watching your father go down that path influenced your own path?
You know what? I don't mean to take anything away from anyone, certainly not my father, but I'm not sure if it really influenced my path. Maybe on a deep subconscious level that I'm just not aware of at this point in time. And to my father, who's probably going to be listening to this, don't take that the wrong way. Again, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, I always had this sort of burning desire to want to be an entrepreneur. I can't bear the thought of working for someone else, to be very
Yeah.
blunt about it. So again, maybe in my subconscious somewhere, watching him growing up as a kid, kind of having the late nights but still making time for his family and whatnot, that probably stemmed onto me in some capacity. But yeah, a lot of what we're doing has just been, this is what we want to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I always ask that question, and I ask it a lot, and it's simply because I think it shocked me how many entrepreneurs came from entrepreneurial
Oh
families.
yeah. Oh,
So like I'll interview somebody and they'll be, uberly successful, and I'll be like, how did you do this? They're like, oh, I just watched my dad or I watched my grandpa do this. And I developed this incredible work ethic from simply being exposed to it. Or, as a kid, I sold ice cream cones on the corner or iced tea or whatever, right? Like a lot of these entrepreneurial, super successful people like yourself, I have noticed that you tend to come from entrepreneurial families somewhere along the line. There was an influence. I think it actually does rub off, Chris. I really do.
yeah.
So,
In the
so
genes.
shout out to your dad. I think there was at least a little tiny bit of influence there. We'll
Yeah,
give him some credit.
100%. No, we have to. We have to.
Okay. In high school, were you thinking like I'm going to become an entrepreneur as soon as humanly possible?
I was too busy playing sports in high school. So yeah, athlete of the year and so forth. That's a past life now. But yeah, I was more looking forward to that basketball game or that baseball game at the end of school to enjoy ourselves a little bit. But again, going back to what I said earlier, just deep down inside, I always kind of knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I never put any thought into how it was going to happen. I figured just something would happen at some point, not to give sort of a wishy-washy answer here, but I was a little bit more focused into getting into some sort of post-secondary, which we ultimately did. We had a couple options there. And again, I figured, okay, one thing will lead to another. I kind of assumed that I'd start by working somewhere else and then maybe branching off on my own, once when I've got 10 years experience or so down the road. But
Yeah.
it's funny, some of the curveballs and knuckleballs life throws you that you got to hit them one way or another. And then you end up down a different pathway than you would have otherwise anticipated.
Yeah. Not to mention, throw in a world global pandemic.
Yeah, October 13th, 2021 is when we started this endeavor, right in the middle of COVID. So you want to talk about getting thrown a knuckleball, that was one right in the dirt.
Okay, so bring me into this. You're 24 years old and you take the leap in, we're in the shit in 2021 with regards to the pandemic. You take the leap and you're like, I am going to start, an industrial services or industrial construction company. Walk me through that decision. What was it that kind of led you to that decision point? And then talk to me about the jump, because I know that a lot of our listeners really struggle with that transition point. I think there's a lot of people who listen to the show who are right on the verge of taking on entrepreneurship, Chris. And they might have this really gravy VP job or executive job that pays the bills and then some. And they're making that decision where it's like, oh shit, okay, like I can leave this safety And I have this great plan and I can do this entrepreneurship thing, but it's friggin' scary as shit. It's really scary. Take me to that moment before you started CTK. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, well, I got a bit of an interesting start. It's a very long story, but it was in short, it was our turn to help our family and make things happen. So I wouldn't say it was more so something that, again, with how we got our start, we woke up one day and said, okay, we're going to start a business, or this sort of slow gradual thing. We kind of had to do it because it was our turn to help our family. So that's what we did. But on the top, there's a lot that you said there and a lot to unpack. There's no real, what I learned through that is that there is no real right time. I'll put right time in air quotes to start.
Yeah.
You just have to put both feet into the fire and do it and go for it. We're only going to get older. So the best time is right now. Don't expect to have all the answers or have everything figured out. Part of what it is you got to take that leap of faith, take that calculated risk, and try something new. And look, there's one of two outcomes that I've learned over the last few years with how that'll work out. You're either going to be successful in whatever capacity you define success to be, so it'll work out, or you will become very wise. In my opinion, both are equally acceptable outcomes, despite how either one may look.
You might actually find yourself wise and successful.
Correct. That is a likely outcome as well.
I feel, oh my gosh, dude, if that's the bar, I've been wise a lot of times, and I'm still working on that successful part.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Usually the wisdom comes first and then the success comes after.
Oh my gosh.
No pain, no game, right? You have to do your time, so to speak, and you have to endure those many months, in some cases years of pain and suffering in order to get to those big goals, right? It's par for the course. You can't avoid it. Quick success, in my opinion, is not a thing. You got to do it the long and hard way and put in your time and put in all the effort and develop all those soft skills, become a different person than you once were in order to get there. And I don't want to, sit here today and claim that I'm, some be all end all. I'm very much in that process right now. We're continuing to grow and evolve and build our business and learn from our mistakes. And, hopefully we don't make the same mistake twice. But it's a journey that never really ends.
I resonate with what you're saying so much because there really is a line in the sand once you become an entrepreneur. There really is the pre-life and post-life. And I think that can be scary for some people, that can be exciting for some people. But the way that you show up has to change. And I don't care how good your work ethic was before, your work ethic needs to get a lot better as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a company builder, right? And it really is like, there is like this definitive line in the sand of who you were before then and who you are after that. And take it or leave it, but it is what it is. And it's a line in the sand for sure. Hey, rock stars, quick pause here. If you're anything like me, you've probably dreamed about owning your own business most of your life. The Revolution hybrid vacuum from Hypervac Technologies is a portable duct cleaning system that fits right in the back of your truck or van, giving you a real opportunity to launch your own duct cleaning business starting at under 7,000 Canadian dollars. Visit www.hypervac.com to learn more. Thanks, Hypervac. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, work-life balance goes out the window very quickly.
Yes.
You're on call 24/7, especially in the early days. I think at this point in time with us, I feel like I'm kind of at the tail end of being on call 24/7. Just,
Sure.
We've got systems and people in place now. But again, maybe it's that owner-operator in me that we always want to make sure we're working in the business to a degree. We don't want that to, overtake what we do the majority of the time now. Yeah. But having that sort of fine blend where we still have the pulse on the business and are still kind of readily available to jump if we have to jump. But it's there are sacrifices to be made. But again, like we said, par for the course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things when I talk to you that really just blows me away a little bit is I started my business development career. I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. I just got out of college and I basically just knew that I needed to get a job, and I was hoping to get like an operations job somewhere. I was literally running from sales, which is hilarious because I ended up deeper than ever. Probably one of the world's best known business development people, but I would have never ever called that ever. Like that was not the path I was on, which is hilarious. But yeah, I was 23 years old when I got my very first business development job. And, it wasn't until 10 years later that I launched my own company and kind of started down the path today. So I look at someone like you and I'm like, holy shit, like 24 years old, launching a construction firm. Like that's incredible, dude. Like, I know I said this in the last time we talked, but like, kudos to you. That is absolutely incredible. You are like 10 years ahead of most people like yourself, which is amazing because that 10 years, it's not 10 linear years, it's exponential compounding on on the impact that's going to have on your life. What made you decide to take the leap so young? One of the challenges, and sorry, before I get into that, I just want to mention that one of the challenges I had as a young 23-year-old business developer is that nobody took me seriously, not initially. Did you run into some of those same challenges?
100%. And so I'm 28 at the time we're recording this. I can't say that we don't still experience some of those challenges today. Although a lot of people think I'm at least in my early 30s, which tends to help. But
yeah.
just to kind of put things into perspective. Let's say we're a guy in our mid 20s trying to build a business from scratch here in an industry that predominantly has an older generation, people in their 50s and 60s that are, let's be honest, a little bit more set in their ways. They have their established relationships and they've been doing business together for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to break into those groups, if you will. And as a result, it kind of forced us to think outside the box very quickly in order to get business in, right? Because, I mean, let's be honest. Are you really going to give some 25-year-old $1 million job to play around with without really having any history with them? Probably not, right? And I don't necessarily fault anybody for that. But there's a bit of you got to prove yourself. And we did that starting small, sticking to what at least I knew very well, coming from the tools myself before we tried to bite off more and more. And then as we sort of got comfortable with that and developed a bit of a foundation, then we could get a little bit more creative with biting off a bit more we can chew and then kind of figuring out as we go. And that kind of helped us scale a bit.
What advice would you give to younger founders who maybe are just like you, have a ton of experience, have a great team around them, have a great product, have a great service, can do exceptional work? Because I know there's many of you out there. What advice would you give them to help build that credibility for those people who are just looking at them and be like, what is this young punk going to do?
Just do it and never give up. To put it in simple terms, there's no right time to start. If you're thinking about doing it, you should probably do it.
Yeah.
And think of it this way. If you're in your early, mid, late 20s or whatever, even if it doesn't work out for you, regardless of what those reasons may be, plan B, you can always go get a job. Now, again, don't ever quit, but your worst case scenario is employment somewhere else. So take those risks now, live a little bit, learn a little bit, have fun while you do it. It's very hard to have fun while you do it. And I'd say it probably wasn't up until the last 6 months I started to kind of enjoy it and appreciate the experience for what it is. But not to kind of put everything so simply, but go for it, start, and just make sure you've got the discipline and the consistency, which you'll develop over time to continue to show up every day, right?
I love that. And I just want to add to that and say every skill that you may not have right now is learnable and developable, right? Like even if none of us end up on this path having the answers. I still don't have all the answers. I've been doing this 5 years. You've been doing this actually longer than I have. I think there's a lot of learning and it never stops. And every time that I think that I've mastered something or I've gotten to this next level, it's almost like something happens, Chris, and I realize, oh shit, I still have a lot more to learn.
Well, and you know what, Kelly, maybe it's worth mentioning, as you were talking there, a couple thoughts popped into my head that might be beneficial to those listening. So someone that was in my shoes, it's very difficult for us to get that foot in the door. So instead, what we focus on and what I'd encourage younger entrepreneurs to focus on are the soft skills, right? You can't necessarily directly influence those that are well established, but you can focus on influencing yourself and building yourself. An example of that could be responsiveness. That person that's very established in your respective industry might be a little bit slower to respond to their emails or return their calls. But me as that young entrepreneur, I can respond a lot quicker, or I can ensure that I'm
Yeah.
always responding quickly. I can ensure that I'm a little bit more organized than my competition. So those little advantages or those soft skills can become advantages. And when you're trying to break into a very established industry, that will help differentiate. And I'll give another quick example. So, part of one of our services is electrical work. If we're going into a building and doing a lighting retrofit, as an example, it's very difficult for us to brand that we can install those fixtures better than the other guy. We might, our work is probably going to be cleaner, but other electricians probably do clean work as well. But we can have guys there the next day to get that install done. We're going to
Yeah.
respond to you immediately. We're going to be organized with our install. We're going to communicate with you efficiently and effectively. So those little things really helped us get that bearings. And I'd really encourage the younger folks out there to really focus in on those, because those are the differentiating factors. And I'd like to think, even though I can't say we're there yet, but as we continue to really grow and scale, I would imagine those probably stay consistent as you grow into that bigger enterprise.
They should. Whether
Very
they
fair.
do is another question, right? Like, you see sometimes that at scale, it's a lot harder to have, those touch points, right? Should it be? No, but maybe it gets less prioritized, or maybe the systems get more difficult. I actually think that there's a lot of advantage to startups, to smaller companies, for those very reasons that you said. There's less moving parts. It's easier to make decisions, easier to implement things, and it's easier just to be, I think, more transparent and more authentic.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is company culture. So
Yeah.
if you're that startup or that founder, you get to determine how your company culture is going to be, as did I, right? And I think there's something to be said about that. Again, we're not there yet, but I'd imagine with dozens and dozens of employees out there, that becomes a little bit difficult to manage, or especially if you're coming into a business. But I think, and one thing we're really focusing on now and have been focusing on about the last year is wanting everybody to really understand what our core values are, what our company culture is, in hopes that that becomes contagious, so that as we grow, as we scale, as we acquire that other business and we're amalgamating them, where it becomes contagious, right? Ownership mentality is a term that comes to mind, something we're very much exploring now. And I think that's the way to do it, kind of build that solid foundation so it can be
Yeah.
scalable in time.
Yeah, we've been teasing our listeners here, and we haven't really let them into what CTK is yet. We've talked about it, but we haven't really let them know what the heck it is we're talking about. So introduce us to CTK, Chris.
Sure. So we are a construction company. We specialize, so in-house, we do all of our electrical, low voltage, and security contracting work. So that encompasses, on the electrical side, your lighting, power distribution, fire alarm systems or services. On the low voltage side, we do a lot of fiber optics and structured or network cabling work. On the security front, we install camera, card access systems, intrusion alarm systems. We can get pretty niche as well on the low voltage side. We've done some audio visual work, nurse call WanderGuard systems on our healthcare projects. More recently, we're dabbling a little bit more into construction management, general contracting. So we're a design build systems contractor, but we can get pretty creative if we have to take on a bit of a larger role and plan on continuing to expand that as we grow.
What is the typical project scopes that you guys look to take on?
Yeah, there's quite a range. So we're based in Vaughan, just north of Toronto. I'll start geographically and build to that, Kelly. Based in Vaughan, we operate across the country quite regularly. We do everything from service work, new construction, renovations, so across Canada. So we could do something as simple as installing a new plug on a wall, maybe a couple data drops, troubleshoot a POS device, etc. right up until multi-million dollar installs. We've done some hospital builds, we've done entertainment builds, we've done a lot of office warehouses, pharmaceutical, and so on and so forth. Healthcare, I said healthcare, food grade plants as well. So some of these are existing buildings that we've come in, upgraded existing electrical low voltage infrastructure, maybe acted as a mini GC, if you will, some of these projects, and of course, new construction as well. So just about anything we're comfortable doing at this point in time, provided we think we can be successful at it, we'll take it on.
You've scaled quite a bit in a very short period of time. I don't know how much you can tell me on this, but like for our listeners, just to give them some idea of the growth of your company, do you mind talking a little bit to how much you've been able to scale in such a short period of time?
Yeah. So at the time we're recording this, it's been about 4.5 years now that we've been doing this. When we started, just myself and a couple guys as well that were brave enough to come with me. We've got around 30 to 40 electricians/technicians out in the field now, core
Wow.
office staff of about 8 people. Like I said, operating across the country quite regularly. We'll deploy how we need to. And then outside of that, we've got a subcontracting network as well. So if we have to do smaller service work out of Ontario, we may choose to just subcontract that as opposed to send our own people. Yeah, so that's what the team looks like right now. Of course, outside of that, not to get too in the weeds, but we've got independent consultants,
Yeah.
legal accounting, people that we kind of deal with as most businesses would our size. And we're talking with them on a pretty regular basis. Yeah, a lot of that, especially early on, came from organic growth, really taking the time to build relationships. And like I said earlier, focusing on the soft skills, which kind of helped us or help people want to give us the time of day and give us a chance and making the most out of that opportunity. And that naturally, would lead to more work, repeat business from clients that we were able to bring on, referrals as well. I'm proud and pleased to say that we do get quite a few referrals because hey, we do good work, right? And it shows, and that goes a long way. And then more recently is the acquisitional growth. We've wrapped up our first acquisition late last year.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a good learning experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the first one under our belt. And yeah, we're trying to do a couple more this year, which we're very actively pursuing right now. So yeah, I'd say start small, start with the organic, learn the fundamentals first. That's what we did. And then with that foundation, then you can get a little bit more aggressive from there.
Wow. Wow. What was the moment where you realized that you were no longer a small business?
Well, I still think we're a small business, to be completely honest with you. I guess perspective is all relative, but I think I've realized it. I'll tell a little bit of a story here. Someone I know just completely outside of work said, "Oh yeah, Chris, I saw one of your CTK vans at so and so the other day," and because I didn't know exactly what they were referring to, and not in a bad way, just because we have systems and people are getting dispatched. I didn't really know what job they were like.
Sure.
I didn't know what we were doing at that point in time where my friend would have seen this. And that kind of made me think, okay, we're kind of a little bit out there now
Yeah.
where mostly people are taking notice, but there are things going on and I don't have to be aware of absolutely every single detail. And we've sort of expanded past that entry level phase, if you will.
That might actually be like the best indicator that you have grown to something substantial is when there is work happening and you're not even aware that it's happening.
That it's happening. Yeah. And I mentioned this to someone else in a completely unrelated conversation. I said, the day that I travel to a different city or town and I see a CTK van driving by and I have no idea where they're going or what they're doing, I think to me, that's how I'm going to know, okay, we've made it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We've come up with some pretty cool things.
That might be one of the coolest indicators we've been given on this show yet, dude. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Hey, creativity, right?
Everybody faces moments that test them. What would you say has been the most testing moment for you on your leadership journey so far?
So, excuse me, as I swallow water.
That's okay.
The wrong way there. Yeah, we've had, okay, so unfortunately, a more common theme in the construction industry or non-payment issue, and dealing with people trying to get out of paying you invoices. We've had some pretty large ones that people have tried to get creative for the wrong reasons and not pay us. You definitely learn a lot pretty quickly. And quite frankly, sometimes there's nothing you could really do to avoid some of these issues.
Yeah.
Someone may wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or there might be something going on behind the scenes that you would have never anticipated. And next thing you know, you're sort of caught in the middle between two entities that are fighting over something, and you're the ones that are footing the bill. So it's unfortunate that the construction industry sees a lot of that. I do think that there are ways to change that pretty easily. Whether that happens or not is another story. And hopefully, to my younger generation listening, hey, let's make a difference, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, those have been a fair share of the challenges. We're a unionized company as well, so there's always little union things that you're dealing with, whether you like it or not. It's par for the course. If you want to grow and scale, you got to take on unionization to grow and scale, bonding, amongst other things. So yeah, that's been a lot of it, quite frankly. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah.
We're still here today. We're diverse as well, so we've got different revenue streams and whatnot. CTK is slowly becoming a little more of a brand, so we've got a couple of entities, i.e., the acquisition and all that, First Nations partnerships as well. So that's more of a new thing we're exploring. But anyways, not to get on a rant there, but I think that's been the bulk of it, or the brunt of it.
Yeah. I've even found myself in scary situations like that where you're like, I sure hope I get paid this month.
Yeah.
I know exactly where you're coming from. Absolutely. And yes, it is important to pay your bills, people.
Yeah.
Especially if you signed agreements.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's not to get on a tangent here, but it's unfortunate that sometimes the agreements and contracts we sign are only as good as the paper they're written on.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying there aren't ways to change that and make a difference, but hint, hint, younger generation, let's make a difference.
Yeah.
Work with me. But again, what doesn't kill you takes you stronger. And if you're going to go in business and you're going to be the one that's ultimately accountable as an entrepreneur, you need to get ready to deal with it. That's sort of the dark side of entrepreneurship that I feel like no one really wants to talk about. They only want to talk about all the good things.
Yeah.
But they don't want to talk about that time you had to pay payroll out of your own pocket, or you had to sleep in the office because you're pulling an all-nighter for whatever reason it was. I mean, like, these are the things you're going to have to do if you really want to go places.
And let's not pull punches. Construction industry is an incredibly challenging industry. I think that we need to give credit where credit is due. Your industry is probably one of the most challenging industries to be part of.
Yeah, and I don't have exact statistics in front of me, so forgive me if I'm misquoting a bit here, but I believe the fail rate for construction-related businesses are within the first 5 years are about 97% or 95%,
Wow.
something very, very high.
Yeah.
And above all else, just to make matters worse, electrical and mechanical contractors, so we of course do the electrical, have the highest fail rate of all the contractors and subcontractors.
Wow.
It's egregiously high, just because of the amount of risk that we take on with the equipment, volatility, all kinds of games that happen behind the scenes. It's pretty crazy. And I've heard other people say on podcasts like this that if you were to take an entrepreneur in construction and pluck them into another industry, currently they do far better, far quicker.
Yeah.
Because of just the different landscape. And I'll be honest with you, Kelly, so I'm kind of doing this other sort of side project with the fiance right now. I'll spare you some details there, but it involves a separate business completely unrelated to construction. And I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but we're starting down this path and I'm thinking, wow, this is easy. This has nothing to do with construction.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, you mean I don't have to deal with unions here? You mean I get paid up front to manage my own cash flow better?
Mm-hmm.
This is great.
Yeah.
So perspective is everything, I tell you.
I've worked with so many, maintenance and construction firms, Chris, and it never ceases to amaze me how hard they work for so little money. Like the revenues are high, but the profit margins they're They're tight.
Yeah, people think you're doing, 20, $30 million and you're netting half of that.
The banks like it. The banks get their fees.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. The margins can be pretty tight. Now, don't get me wrong, some work is higher margin than other.
Sure.
Service work tends to be where the margins are a lot higher. We try and, focus on that as much as we can as a result of where the margins are. But naturally, new construction, if you've got a $4 or $5 million contract, as an example, you can't take 30% on that.
Yeah.
Or higher. It's just not there. You got to stay competitive. There's other people that are going to try and undercut and low bid you just to hammer the client on extras after. I'll stress that is not our philosophy and mentality. If we lose a job because someone wants to undercut, we're going to lose the job. We'd rather be transparent and upfront. And this is why we focus on design build work a lot as well, really trying to alleviate the tension early on, work with the client, make sure everybody's coming in feeling okay, client's needs are getting met, and just deliver a good project. But yeah.
It is not uncommon, at least out here in Alberta, for profit margins on construction and maintenance projects to be sub 10%. And actually, even giving it 10% is probably being kind.
Yeah, we've had scenarios, and I know we're not the only other company that have experienced this, where we will price, I don't know, $300,000 on a project, let's say. We put in our bid and we're thinking, wow, we're really tight on this one, to the point where it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
And say, hey, someone came in at 140,000 and we're thinking 140,000, like that's not even our material cost, guys. Like we're not taking $160,000 in profit here, which kind of begs the question, where's the money going?
Yeah.
I like to think, and I hope clients are getting smarter in weeding that out, because it's been proven time and time again to not be a winning model. So I think fundamentally, especially some of the government municipality jobs, they need to go with the lowest price. We tend to stay away from that quite a bit because nobody tends to win in those scenarios.
No. Yeah, and actually, maybe that leads me into the next question, and maybe that is something that we can do together here today to change the industry a bit, Chris. How do we fix that? Because obviously, if you come in and you know that you're tight margined at 300 grand and you're being undercut by this company at 140,000, and you know for a fact they're either losing money on the projects, they're underbidding it, or they're cutting corners like no tomorrow. Like, how do we fix that, do you think, as an industry? Because I know for a fact that competitive bid process, especially in municipal projects like you just mentioned, there's a lot of that undercutting going on where it's like, why are we cool with that?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think there's a couple different ways we can carve that up. So the first one, and I might be broad stroking this by saying it, is client education. I find a lot more on the private side, clients are getting a little bit more smarter, if you will, when it comes to that, but really educating those that have to send out a request for proposal or an RFQ, request for quote, to make them understand that there's a bit of a process here. There's a way you do this properly. And I'd also encourage those clients on the educational front to work with the contractors that are willing to take the time, sit down with you, and really figure it out and make sure that we're catching everything on the first go, ensuring there are no scope gaps. Now, so with clients, I'd say really focus on finding the consultative contractor on the contractor's end. And this is the approach we take. Try and be that consultative contractor. I hope that's a word, consultative.
You know what? We're going to go with it. We're going to run with it. Okay. It works for me.
Pretend it is.
But what you're saying is hold their hand and help them get to the decision that's right for them by educating them along the way.
Correct. Yeah. Be a
partner. Be a partner.
Yeah, exactly. Be a partner. Be transparent. We're very big on transparency, and being transparent has gotten us through some pretty hairy situations as well. But really being transparent and upfront and honest with the clients, and hey clients, when you have a contractor that's being open and honest with you, work with them.
Yeah.
They're the ones you want to work with. Yeah, you're going to have to pay more for that service, but the amount of overhead and fewer problems you're going to experience is always going to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking a little bit before the show on that it's not the fastest spring we've had here in 2026.
Same here in Toronto. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the current situation, obviously with the US. They're our biggest trading partner. A lot of our investment comes from the US. A lot of the projects are funded by the US, just call it frankly, and a lot of the materials going back and forth over that border make these things happen. How has the current situation affected you guys?
Yeah, industry as a whole, we're connected to a number of different contractors. I wouldn't say there's a lack of work out there. It's the reluctancy to want to go forward with that new build or that renovation like project. So, as a result, things have definitely slowed down quite a bit across the board. I'd say just about everybody, if not everybody I
Yeah.
know in the industry, have said about the exact same thing. So the money is out there to be spent, but nobody wants to pull the trigger. I do think that looking at the last several months, there is this sort of shift in, well, we got to get it done anyway. So there's no better time than now. And hey, let's go back to that whole entrepreneurial spirit of there is no better time than right now. So yeah, we especially on the First Nations side. So we have a First Nations partnership that CTK does that we recently got into place, and there's a lot of renewable energy projects,
Yeah.
infrastructure related projects that need to get done. Canada's electrical grid is lacking a little bit, so work needs to get done, money needs to be spent, but there's still that hesitation. I do think that's going to change latter part of 2026 and certainly in the future after that, because we need it as a country. Hey, let's get on with it. Let's start getting prices, proposals together and get it done. And Kelly, I'm gonna go back to one point. When it comes to contractors, if we're trying to get this whole shift of getting work done and working with contractors, clients working with contractors, I do want to stress that us contractors are not, the good contractors at least, are not out there to take advantage of anybody. We want to do good work and we want to get paid and we want to leave. And
Yeah.
we want to go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So I think if as a whole, everybody can approach these projects, regardless of the size, scale, scope, with the right mindset, I think we can accomplish a lot as a country. And, sovereignty is a big word these days and really benefit ourselves, our communities, and hopefully we all live with a little bit more peace of mind, knowing that we've got a lot of good infrastructure and quality of life around us. So.
And it comes up in like every big meeting that I have with oil and gas companies, hydroelectric companies, power companies in general. As all of these big projects are about to kick off here in Canada, and there are a lot of them. So you're right. The opportunity is there. Don't sit on the sidelines. Get out there and start making connections, because Canada is actually about to go into a bit of a boom, especially like you said, in that electrical development area. And so, reach out to these people, start those connections, because when I have those conversations, Chris, it inevitably leads to, we have the money. Where we're going to struggle is with the manpower.
Yeah, there's to your point, a lot happening. Don't be shy to reach out and say hi to people and just be authentic when you're doing it, right? Yeah, on the topic of manpower, definitely a bit of a shortage right now as well. Let's not kid ourselves. There's been a shortage for a while. You got the baby boomers in the process of retiring and will be for the next number of years. So not a lot of people coming in. I am hoping, and I do kind of anticipate, because there is a bit of a, do I dare say, a gold rush coming in the construction industry with all the infrastructure that's needed.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that a lot of young people are going to look at the trades as a very viable career path, because it is. It really is.
Yeah.
I know what electricians make because we have to pay them, and they do very, very well. I can assure you, pension benefits, etc. And not just necessarily electricians, HVAC technicians, refrigeration, plumbing, skilled trades are great. You can have a very, very lucrative career working as a skilled trade employee at a firm like ours or elsewhere. So I'm hoping the younger generation can see that and not see it as sort of frowned upon career path, because it's not, and not necessarily just skilled trades either. There's nothing wrong with flooring and roofing and
Yeah.
drywall. Again, they make good wages these days. It really comes down to the employer at that point. Some do pay better than others, but don't be afraid to get your hands dirty out there. It's a good, honest career path. And I don't think you'll have to worry about AI taking your job anytime soon.
Not yet, but who
Not
knows?
yet. One day we'll all get replaced, but hopefully there's enough abundance to go around then.
Yes, absolutely. No, Chris, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. If somebody listening right now wants to build their own firm, their own construction company, whatever it is, but they are afraid to start, what single piece of advice might you give them? I know we talked about this at the beginning. You kind of said get going, but there's a little more to it than that. What would you say if you could give one piece of advice that has made you quite successful? What might that be?
It's a tough question.
They always are.
Yeah, it's tough, but good question. I would say, and I think the world would be a whole lot better of a place if everyone was just a little bit more authentic and transparent.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, we have gotten as far as we have because of how authentic and transparent we and I personally have been as well. We as a company, and then me with networking and people. Not to sound arrogant or anything by saying that, but really having a level of authenticity that you can't really fake, I think goes a long way. I like to attribute a lot of our company's success to that because people want to work with people that are authentic and transparent and willing to, have a conversation with them. And yeah, I'd encourage anybody out there, regardless of what walk of life you come from, to be that way. I think we'd all live with a lot less tension if everybody exercised that to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Authenticity is key. It really is. It's like be authentic, have integrity, and you will be surprised at how far it takes you. Chris, this has been absolutely amazing. For the people listening who want to get a hold of you, they're interested in CTK, they got a project coming up, it's got some electrical scope, low voltage, security, you're all over it. What is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do read and respond to all my emails, return all my calls on the topic of responsiveness, right?
Yeah.
So don't be shy to send me a connection request and say hi on LinkedIn. I will get back to you. And I'm always happy to talk to people. And that's one other thing that I'll share. I've been pleasantly surprised over the few years that just having a simple conversation with someone, it's amazing how far that can take you. So I'm always happy to talk to anyone, regardless of what industry you may be. And then heck, Kelly, that's kind of how we met, right? I reached out to say hi. You kind of knew someone that I knew, and here we are recording a podcast together, right?
It's those small connections. I always say my crystal ball's broken. I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Chris, this has been absolutely incredible. Thanks for coming on. Congratulations on all your success. You got a long road ahead of you, but I have a feeling it's going to be paved with a lot of great things. And I look forward to our next conversation.
And congratulations to you too, Kelly. Hey, you're putting in some serious work. You're an award-winning podcast, are you not?
Yeah, multi at this point.
Multi. Good for you, my friend.
We've been blessed.
That's awesome. Many more to come.
Yes.
No, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate this. This is great.
Amazing. Yes. Until next time, you've been listening to the Business Development Podcast, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
For industries like mining, forestry, construction, and energy, Downtime is not just frustrating, it's expensive. For more than 55 years, Thunder Bay Hydraulics has helped keep critical equipment running through expert hydraulic cylinder repair and manufacturing. With in-house engineering, precision machining, and decades of real-world experience, they solve complex hydraulic challenges that most shops simply cannot handle. Their mission is simple: a relentless pursuit of zero downtime. Learn more at www.thunderbayhydraulics.com.